With some basic stitches and a pattern, let's make the cutest body onesie with mitten sleeves. First thing first, I cut out all my fabric pieces and transferred the design onto the front. I'm going for a bodysuit here, but feel free to switch it up and make a romper if that's what you want. Since I'm working with knit fabric, I've already added some interfacing. For embroidery on clothing, I primarily use fusible interfacing. In this video, I opted for double-sided fusible interfacing, layering a piece of fabric on top and giving it a good press with my iron. You could also use one-sided fusible interfacing, which is great for collars or waistbands. Just tack 2 layers for extra stiffness and press it down. Now let's get going. We're starting with the basic back stitch. For the tiny letters, I'm using 2 strands of black embroidery floss, as you can see. To make a back stitch, pull your thread out through point A. Then take it in and away about a ½ centimeter to point B. That's your first stitch. Next, bring your thread out again, this time at point C, which is another ½ centimeter away. Insert your needle back through and voila! You're creating a stitch by pulling the thread backwards. Just keep repeating this. It's super quick and easy, so don't worry if you're a beginner. You've got this. If you're new here, welcome! You might not know yet that I'm just as passionate about embroidery, crochet as I'm about knitting and sewing. So, if that sounds like your kind of thing, hit that subscribe button right now so we can hang out together in our little bubble. Now let's move on to one of my favorites, the chain stitch. This stitch adds a lovely, beautiful, thick and elegant finish to your project. There are countless ways to create this stitch, but today we're going to focus on the easiest, most beginner-friendly one. Start by making a tiny, teeny little stitch. Then bring your needle up about a ½ centimeter away. Pass the needle under that tiny stitch from above. Then back into the same spot. Keep repeating this process, going under each chain you create. Once you get the hang of it, you will find it becomes a breeze. Again, I'm using 2 strands of black embroidery floss. When you encounter curves, remember to use smaller stitches. This will help your work look smoother and more polished. Again, make sure to use smaller stitches at curves. This is key, okay? For the heart design, I opted for a split stitch, which resembles the chain stitch but results in a less bulky finish. I made my first stitch, and as you can see, I came out from the center of the previous stitch, splitting it in half. I used 3 strands of red floss for this part. Okay, as I mentioned in my previous video featuring this heart design, I absolutely love French knots. And I promised you'd see them often. So here they are. To create a French knot, pull your thread out from the fabric, then wrap it around the needle 2 or 3 times, depending on the thickness of your thread and the size of the knot you want. Next, go back into the fabric as close to where you exited as possible. Pull through and tighten your stitch. Hey, be sure to follow the line you drew for the best results. For the outline of this cute cloud, I used 3 strands of white floss. To make the corners stand out more, I placed a knot right at the corner, even if it meant going a bit deeper into the line. This little trick really helps define those beautiful corners, and I thought it was worth sharing with you. Let's get those adorable eyes and mouth done using black thread. Start by bringing your needle out from one side and then back in and out through the other. But hold on, do not pull all the way through. Leave a little loop there, okay? Next, poke your needle right in the center of the eye or mouth. Go through that loop and then back into the fabric as close, if not in the same spot that you came out from. Give it a good tug to tighten everything up. This technique is actually the same one I use when adding features to my crochet pieces. Just a heads up, I'm using 2 strands of my black embroidery floss for this part again. To wrap things up, I added 2 cute French knots with some pink floss for those adorable cheeks. Using the same pink floss, I crocheted a little bow. To make the bow, start with a magic ring. Make 4 chains, followed by 4 double crochets. Then 3 more chains and slip stitch into the ring, which counts as the 4th stitch. I repeated this once more and cut a long thread. Tie the 2 ends together and wrap it around the middle a few times. You can either sew it in place or use some fabric glue to secure it. Into the sewing. First up, I trimmed away the excess interfacing just like this. Next, it's time to add the bias tape. Place the right side of the tape against the wrong side of your fabric. I know it might seem a bit odd, but trust me, we will be folding it over to the right side later, and it will all make sense. Now, let's pin everything down securely. I like to leave a little extra fabric loose at the edges for the bias tape. It really helps with the finish, and you'll see why in just a bit. Oh, and don't forget, you can grab this design for free in the comments and description below. Don't forget to add the bias tape to the front neckline and lower part. And yes, you will want to repeat this for the back as well. With everything pinned in place, it's time to sew. Use a straight stitch, keeping it as close to the edge as you can. Remember to remove those pins as you go to avoid any needle breaks, okay? Next, we'll fold the bias tape. You'll notice that the right sides align perfectly. Pin those folds in place and do the same for both the front and back. And hey, if you have any ideas for future videos or specific baby outfit designs you would love to see, drop them in the comments. You can also send me a pic of your design ideas on Instagram. I'll leave the link in the comments and description for you. For sewing, I opted for this stretch stitch on my machine that looks like a hive. If you don't have that option, a straight stitch with 2 rows works as well. I have done it on plenty of other projects and it works perfectly. Now let's tackle the sleeves. If you're going for regular sleeve, just fold the edge twice and sew them down. But since I'm adding mittens, I'll fold those edges twice for now. Don't forget to repeat this for both sleeve pieces. And here's a quick tip. To add mittens to any pattern, simply extend the original sleeve length about 5 to 6 centimeters. It's that easy. I used the same stretch stitch as before. I'm using my trusty wool compressor foot, which is a lifesaver when working with jersey or stretchy fabric. It keeps everything in check and prevents the pesky stretching as you sew. And don't forget those stretch fabric needles. They are a total game changer. The ballpoint design is perfect for knit fabrics featuring a rounded tip that glides right between the loops, minimizing the chance of skipped stitches, okay? Now, let's get those pieces assembled. Since I'm creating an envelope neck shape, we need to align 2 specific marks on the front and back pieces to form the shoulders. I'll pin those together and sew right along the edge to secure the shoulders. Moving on to the sleeves. We will start by folding up the 6 centimeter we added for the mittens. After sewing the edges, that 6 centimeters has turned into 5 centimeters, okay? So we will fold it and sew down the center of it before adding the sleeves to the main body. I actually, unfortunately, forgot to do this step initially, but trust me, it's much easier to do it now. Once that is done, we will attach the sleeve to the main piece, just like I did here. I prefer to serge the sides together first, but since I don't have a serger, I'm using a fake overlock stitch instead. It works wonders if you let one side go into the fabric and the other out along the edge. If you don't have an overlock stitch option, a zigzag stitch will do the trick too. Just make sure to secure those edges to avoid any fraying later on. After serging, I'll add one more row of straight stitch for extra security. We have reached the final stage of our sewing, joining the sides. Here is a little pro tip for you. I like to tie the leftover thread from the sleeves to snug up those armpits as much as possible. First, I'll sew them together using my fake overlock stitch, followed by a straight stitch for extra security. Next, let's give everything a nice press and a good steam to make it look sharp. The last step is to add those snaps. I truly believe that a handmade gift can be one of the most heartfelt presents for a baby shower or for your own little one. There is just something really special about the emotions woven into handmade things that store-bought gifts simply can't match. But if you are looking to create something a bit different, check out this video where I guide you through making this beautiful, gorgeous heart design. It's just as easy for beginners as this project. And if you create one of these, I'd love to see your beautiful work on my Instagram. And with that, all that is left to say is that until next time, I'll see you next time. Bye!